we're back again. Sex 101 podcast. I have just love it when I go see our podcast on like iTunes or Spotify or something like that. I'm like, this is so cool that I get to be a part of this podcast. Every time I'm still very excited about doing this with you, just because all the work that you do, helping couples and if you haven't, if you're in, I think it was Stormy, you were even saying this, or maybe you're the one that told me, don't wait till you're having real issues and you're just trying to save your marriage or save your sex life. Like if at the first hint of something could be off, why not just go ahead and handle it? There is no reason to wait when you're having issues. And Stormy is one of the best people I know that can really help couples and help improve your sex life, because if you can improve your sex life, it really infiltrates the rest of your life.
It totally does. It's so interesting thing too, especially like with those of us that came from religious backgrounds. And I know that's a lot of, the people that follow you, and also from your other podcast and myself is included. I grew up Catholic, very Catholic. Like my mom was going to be a nun level Catholic, and literally was going to be a nun. I went all the way through seminary. So Catholic. But there's so much messaging. And there can be so much beautiful messaging in that, but around sex, the messaging tends to be about repression and shame and and oppression, and that is literally like never a way to liberate our greatness, right? So there's so much of it but there's so much we can undo our messaging, we can undo the programming at any point in our life. That's the cool to the brain nerd in me. That's the coolest part, is our brains are neuroplastic, which means have the ability to change all throughout life. So just because we were taught something that's deeply ingrained in our brain doesn't mean we can't change it. And that's what I think keeps people stuck. They're like, well, this has just been this way for 50 years. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. It's like, no, you totally can.
Yes, you're exactly right. And if you're not keeping your mind fresh and your body fresh and all that stuff, if you're not using it, it will go away. Like it will just go away. Your brain will go away. Your sex life will go away. Your relationships will go away. It's something that is ongoing that you have to be committed to and open to that change. So I wanted to start a little differently this week. We usually do the Stump Stormy later in the episode, but I wanted to start with the Stump Stormy because I wanted to talk a little bit about hand jobs. And I think you're probably the perfect person to talk to about that.
Well, thank you.
I hope you take that as a compliment. But okay, so I want to try and stump you a little bit. All right, then and this is about hand jobs. There's a few of them here, but we'll just kind of just hit a little bit. But I was going to ask you, out of couples, let's say I found this survey on xycode.com, and it's talking about hand jobs. How many couples per week say that they do hand jobs? Out of 100%, what percentage of couples say that they do a hand job once a week?
Like as a couple, I would say 5%.
Yeah, you're very close. 10%, and 5% say they do it maybe more than once a week.
Wow. I'm sort of in awe of those couples.
I am too. I was wondering about that too. I was wondering your take on that, because it says about a quarter are doing it a couple times a month.
Yeah. That's what yep.
All right. How about this one? What do you think the number one reason out of this survey, the number one reason women gave for not doing a hand job or not doing it more often?
I would say that they think, well, he can do it himself and probably better, so why bother?
He gets all he wants. That's what they say. You nailed it.
That is so funny. I mean, this is the male-female brain at its like finest, right? This example of that. Like, so I was talking to my boyfriend this morning, and I'm like, "Oh, Toby and I are gonna do podcast. We're gonna kind of go into like how to give a perfect hand job." And he's like, "Why bother when you can just have sex or have a blow job?" And I was like, "What? No, And he was like, "No." He was kind of teasing, but I think there's a stigma about that like either a man can do it better because he does it all the time himself in masturbation, or like, why bother? But I think it's a very, very, very underrated part of physical intimacy.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, he gets all he wants was chosen by 42% of the women. And then the second most common reason that they don't do it was, I'll just go ahead and tell you this one. I don't know how to do it well. This answer
Yeah.
was selected by 20% of women, and 43%
Mm.
of women just don't even say they don't even do it. Don't even
Yeah.
do hand jobs, like what you said. So I thought it would be interesting if we could talk about hand job, because I think you're right. I think a lot of people just go, well, guys masturbate and they know what they're doing. And I mean, I have other things that I can do for my guy. Well, the hand job just seems like the least thing, but it is actually kind of intimate, because your hand is amazing. It's an amazing tool, if you will,
Totally.
that it does
Yeah.
so much. Like without your hand, it's unbelievable. Like what your
Yeah,
hand can do and
totally.
create and make. And so I do actually think it can create obviously amazing pleasure and intimacy and all those
Hmm.
things, but it does feel like out of everything that couples do, that might even be one of the least things that anybody goes to, more than like, I'll just get you started. This is just to get it ramped up.
Yeah.
This isn't anything
Yeah,
that's going to get us.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I would say. So let's do some like let's address those 20% of women that just that don't feel like they know how. Like that's what we're doing on this podcast, right? Is doing some adult sex education, right? So we can be better lovers, so we can have better orgasms, have more pleasure. And so I think there's a misconception that it's like for teenagers only, right? Like hand jobs
Yeah.
are for teenagers
Yep.
only. I think there's also a misconception that he can do it better because that's what he uses to masturbate. So I'm not even gonna like try. Um, and then I think also like porn really like had, let's say a man is masturbating, giving himself a hand job to porn, like it often can be like fast and like just rub one out sort of experience, right? But what I would be encouraging you, if you're going to do this as in your partner exchange, if you're going to offer your partner a hand job, is that it's not just to like rub one out. Actually, that like the focus should be on pleasure and as like actually like adoring your partner in this way, and letting them be in full receiver mode, which is already a switch of the dynamic a lot of the time, where the man can typically be in like giver, I'm going to give and pleasure my woman. This is a chance to like change it up, which is super sexy, right? For your man to be in full receiver mode and for you to be in full giver mode is really like really sexy and really powerful. And it doesn't have to be like fast and furious like a lot of porn will represent, or a lot of men might actually just quote unquote rub one out. They know what works, they know the friction, they just want to orgasm, ejaculate really quickly. But this is like luxuriate. This is like to like really take the time to love on the penis with your hands,
Yeah.
and you said our hand is an amazing tool. I'd say, ladies out there, you got two of them. Like you're gonna use them both, okay? So, and so I think there is really like and I think also it also can be an amazing tool. One of the areas I really focus on in my coaching is mismatched sex drive, right? Mismatched libido in a coupleship, in a couple. It can be an amazing tool, right? Like let's just say, for example's sake, I'm a woman and I'm not wanting to have sex that night, but my partner is feeling frisky. It's like me in really enjoyment offering a hand job, letting him receive a hand job is a great way for him to experience sexual pleasure. And I don't have any pressure to have sex, right? So
Yeah.
it can actually be a bridge if it's done thoughtfully for like mismatched sex drive too.
Yeah. That's great. I think too, like one of the things, so that's what I was going to ask you as well. What is there a difference in dry or using a lube or a lotion, or like,
Yeah.
and sometimes just in my own personal experience, if you use a lotion that ends like oral sex, that could happen after
Mm-hmm.
that too. So you kind of got to decide what lube, if you're going to use it, what do you start with, because that
Yeah.
will affect, because if you just use lotion, you might want to wash that off before penetrative sex or obviously
Mm-hmm.
oral sex or anything like that.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, right? So let's just get into like some of the logistics of it. I mean, so I think, the so like lube, I definitely recommend lube for a hand job. And it can be like coconut oil, unless your partner has an allergy to coconut, or it could be lube, or it could be a coconut oil lube or silicone lube.
Does coconut oil
Um,
work good? I don't think I've ever
yeah, it's
used
great.
that.
Yeah, it's awesome. And like that's actually when we made our lube, one of our versions is coconut oil based because we love coconut oil so much
Wow.
for lube. But you can
Eh,
literally use like cooking coconut oil like that you get at the grocery store. And
You need
that
to.
actually is very safe for the vagina too.
Oh, that's
Mhm.
awesome. I never knew
Yeah,
that.
amazing. Yep. So, but let's say you're going to use, let's just say like a lube, like a silicone based lube, right? You can, part of it is like preparing, like have a little towel nearby. You can use the lube. And then if you decide you want to go into oral sex or penetrative sex, you can just, it's really sexy. That can be part of the hand job, is to like wipe off the lube,
Yeah.
right? But I would say lube is awesome for hand job, right? It also takes off that fast and furious. Like it allows you to really explore more of the penis, also explore maybe the testicles or the perineum, like with, so lube away, I would
Yeah.
say, right? And then there's always a way,
That's
if
got
you
to be
don't
a
like the taste
t-shirt.
of the lube,
Lube, lube away.
lube away. And if you don't like the taste of the lube, you can wipe it off. Like you don't have to be, if you want to go into oral sex or penetrative sex. So, and then I think some of the other like tips that I would say is we can, as women, tend to focus on the head of the penis, and the head of the penis is, it's great to do because the head of the penis has so many more nerve endings than, let's say, the base of the penis. But there's a whole beautiful penis to explore. You got two hands to explore the whole thing, right? And you might focus on the head, but that they're really like making sure that you give some love and attention to all of the penis. And then there's not just a penis, right? There's
Yeah.
testicles, there's groin, there's your inguinal folds, there's the perineum, which is between the testicles and the anus. There's the anus if you want to go there, right? So again, we can be really myopic about being like a hand job has to just be like up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down on the shaft. And it's like not at all. Like that's might be one stroke that you try, that you explore. But it's, you know, not getting, and just like have fun with it. Like, I mean, that's the other big tip, I think, more than like specific strategies of strokes or techniques, is that the energy of which you give your partner a hand job is very much felt by them, right? So the
Yeah.
position your body is in, but also like the energy. You look like you're like doing your taxes in your mind. Like that is not not going to be great for him, right? Or like, so can you really be present? Can you be like, I'm adoring on my partner in this way? He will sense and feel that. And then, you know, there is something about like, what is your position, right? Because women will complain, like I've heard women complain, like my wrists get sore, or like it's hard on my shoulders. Like
Yeah.
get yourself comfortable, get yourself in a good position, and give him something to look at, because your body looks really hot when you're doing that. Like, so give him something to look at, you know. You can make eye contact. You can make eye contact as pleasure builds. Like these are all ways to really, you know, up your hand job game, let's call it.
Yeah.
And then I think also asking your partner to show you, like you could say, like, put your hand over mine and show me how much pressure you like, right?
Yeah.
Is a really sexy way to like make it joint, but also to like learn from them. They have been giving themselves hand jobs a long time. You might as well find out what kind of pressure or speed they like.
Yeah.
And so that feedback piece, right? We can tend to be so like not communicative. Well, often many couples aren't communicative at all in the bedroom, and we're changing that, Toby. We're changing that. But you know, ask them for feedback. Like, do you like this? Do you want it harder? Do you like it faster? You know, that sort of thing. Listening for his pleasure cues. How's his breath? Is he pulling his hips away from you, or is he leaning into you? Are good indicators to pay attention to as well. And then I think, you know, playing around with your strokes, right? You have two hands, you can use them in the same way, you can use them different ways, you can twist. You don't just have to go up and down, you know, and it doesn't have to be like this jackhammer like level of speed or pressure. It might be really soft, and usually starting out slow and steady and building as his pleasure builds.
Yeah.
And then I think something else that blocks women from what I've been told is that, well, then he's just going to come in my hands, or it's going to make a mess or whatever. It's like, again, you can have a towel nearby. You can come in your mouth. He can finish himself off of you. Don't, that's something for you that you don't love. You know, there's so many ways to navigate it. And then another thing I've been asked by women is like, well, what do I do to turn myself on? And my answer, like while I'm giving a hand job, let's say, and my thought on that is, well, when you're in full giver mode and you're literally like adoring on your man's cock, that's pretty hot. Like you can feel turn on just from that. And you're watching their pleasure. And you are also, ladies, very much in control when you're giving a hand job, right? You have their penis in your hands. Like it's really powerful, right? But then like, I think it's also being like, you can turn yourself backwards so that your bum is towards them. They can be pleasuring you with their hands. I mean, you could have a little in place vibrator on there. You know, you could try a hand job with a cock ring on him. You know, there's so many ways that you can also experience pleasure, or just even kind of grinding against his leg if you're straddling his thigh, that sort of thing. So, you know, and then letting it be part of your foreplay. Where you go, you might finish with a hand job, you might go on to sex, you might go on to mutual play, but that it can really be a beautiful part of foreplay. And I think it's a really often skipped part of foreplay.
Oh, totally. You're right. So I mean, I'll even say from my personal experience, you know, years ago, had a girlfriend, and so I had two different experiences. One was with a girlfriend who it was the jackhammer, and I had to end it quickly because it was like, what has
Hurting.
happened? Like,
Yeah.
And I think honestly, I'm going to put a little bit of the responsibility on that from guys, because I think sometimes ladies think the man is masculine and strong and he wants to jackhammer her, you know, like I think we've been, I don't know if that necessarily comes from porn, but the idea of just slamming and hard sex and really
Right.
going after it feels like that somehow that's way better, when a lot of times we're talking about soft tissue that feels amazing when you're gentle. And so I was actually like, it didn't cut me, but I thought like it was I was getting a hand job, and I was like, this has to stop. I was like, oh yeah, oh thank you.
That was so great. Thank you so much.
Wow, that was amazing. I gotta go. No. I didn't. I forget exactly what I said, but it was something like that. Like, oh man, that feels great, but let's just I don't know if I'm ready for this. I forget what I said. But that, and then another lady was it felt so sensual and connected, like and I'll be honest about it, like we started taking off our clothes and we were standing, and then she put her hand on my penis and led me to the bed by my penis, and I was like, whoa, she's like you said, she was in control.
Totally.
And I felt so like connected and like, whoa, this is amazing. Like it made me feel like she really wants this, you know what I mean? Like she's leading
enjoying
me here.
it. And,
and then you're right. Like I love what you were saying too about it's not just the jackhammer or the up and down motion. Like there's other stuff like twisting. There's the balls. There's the everything else that you can do, and that really makes a guy just go, whoa, what is happening? This is crazy. I don't, because oftentimes as a guy, I know me, like from the time I first started masturbating, I realized I need to be efficient and get this done, because somebody's, are my parents coming home?
For sure.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not, like it was about trying to get the thing done. And, but when you're with your partner, it's not, like you said, it's not really about that. It's about the whole experience and enjoying it. And so I really like that you're saying that, like a guy, he hasn't really taken care of himself. He knows what feels good to get him off as fast as possible, usually.
Exactly.
But like he wants to spend time with you, and it's one component that could lead to even more.
Totally. I mean, and there's also a big difference, and maybe that'll be another podcast episode for us, but there's a big difference between like whacking off, like rubbing one out, whether that's you're doing it or a woman doing it for you, and what we in the Tantra world call lingam. So in Tantra, lingam is the penis and yoni is the vulva. And there's a lingam massage and a yoni massage. And I teach this to my clients. It's something I like, I'm a huge believer in, but it's literally like adoring your partner's cock, right? There's a difference between rubbing one out and adoring your partner's cock. So in lingam massage, which is different than the hand job, right, is that you're literally massaging like groin, buttocks, abdomen, pubic bone, and then literally massaging the penis, like with both hands, with your thumbs, and with these different massage strokes, because I can almost guarantee you your man has not had his penis massaged. And it's so incredible. And it is a form of a hand job. It's just a very like devotional form of a hand job. And so, I mean, we should do a whole episode on it, but it's really an incredible thing. My first experience giving one was, I was like, oh, well, this is a little different than like, under the pants, just quick rubbing one out sort of thing. It was literally an act of total giving and watching your partner just relax, enjoy. And on the lingam massage, the penis massage, there's no goal of even being hard or of orgasm. And so the man gets to totally relax into just being adored by his woman, his cock being adored by his woman. And it's so cool. It is so amazing. The men in my life that I have given one to over the years, like they said it was something they've never experienced before because it was so different.
I think too, we should definitely do an episode about using your hand on a vagina as well. I think that
Oh
would
yeah.
that would be a good one as well. Just because I was thinking about like that, the idea here too, that I think that what we're getting at is this is about pleasuring your partner. Like a hand job is pleasuring your partner. Like your genitals aren't being stimulated, but that can be such a turn on. And I don't think
Mhm.
people realize that as much because I just think it's all about efficiency. The kids just went to bed. Let's get it done so we can go to, all that. Like this is
Totally.
this is a real time to go. It's actually really loving to your partner to go, I want to
Mhm.
spend time pleasuring you because that pleasuring you pleasures me. Like even if it's
Totally.
mental or whatever, and that definitely leads to other stuff. I would say hand jobs almost always can lead to other things that you're
Yeah.
doing. And like you said,
Mhm.
just be prepared. Have a towel there. If you want to
Yeah.
clean up a little bit, take a minute and go, hey, I'm just going to clean this up and we're going to keep going. It's going to be
Yeah,
awesome. Or,
exactly. Or
you can
like,
do
let's
all
get
of
in the
that.
shower together and rinse off and keep
Oh
this
yeah.
going, right? Like there's so many things that, and I think the what I would say is to the women out there listening is if this is interesting you with it, play with it. I'm pretty sure your partner's going to be open to you exploring with it if
Yeah.
you do it in the right spirit and you're like, I mean, I don't know very actually I can't imagine a lot of situations where if you're like, I want a door on your cock with my hands, that your partner's gonna be like, no thanks.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like that's pretty vulnerable, pretty amazing, and pretty sexy to say to offer as the woman. So
And just for everybody out there, what is the name of your lube? Because I wanted to talk about it for a
so
second.
our lube it's on our lovedeeperlab.com products, and it's Love Deep Lab. We have a coconut and a water based, and ours has CBD in it so that you have the benefits of that CBD brings to the vaginal
Yeah.
mucosa. It started as a love project because my coaching clients were like, hey, do you have a good lube that you like? And I didn't like the chemicals or the names in lubes that I can't even pronounce and I'm supposed to put in my vagina. Like, no, thank
Yeah.
you. you know, and
Yeah.
so ours only has like 7 ingredients in it. It's really like natural and green, and it's been a really fun love project making that for
And
sure.
it's awesome. I've used it. I have
Thanks.
used it and it is great.
Yeah,
I
thanks.
actually think it does set itself apart from other lubes. You're right. Like, I
Thank
mean,
you. Yeah. The
there are great
CBD is amazing.
there are great lubes out there, but yours is it to me, it's a little bit of a different consistency that is light, but
Oh yeah. Hmm.
it retains. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't just go away immediately. Some lubes will definitely just like the air hits them and you start, and you need
Sucks them right up. Yeah.
you keep squeezing it back in your hand, getting
Yep,
more for both of
exactly.
yours
Yeah.
lasts, but it's just so nice. And I just, it really works well. I mean, like it really does what it's supposed to do. So I
Yeah,
highly
thanks.
recommend it to the listeners out there for
Yeah,
sure.
you can check it out. The in our Instagram and TikTok, there's a link on there for our CBD lube. But then, I think it's like find a lube that you love. Like that was why we created. It was started as like a little love project. I didn't realize how much work it is to create
Yeah.
a product line. But really, like don't get if you don't like one lube, that's okay. Try another lube. Like they're not all made equally, for sure. And for me, like I'm a bit of a hippie. I was like, I want all ingredients I know and can pronounce, right? And so that was important to me when we were making ours. So
Yeah, 100%. And I think even going back to what we were talking about with hand jobs, the lube is so important because you can just go slow and it is not about
hmm
just the finish line. It really isn't. I think that's is where we get mistaken with hand jobs is, oh, I'm just going to jackhammer or go off on this so the guy can come. And I don't think
yeah,
that really is the case. Like it just feels so nice to have your partner because the hand can do so much. And you're right, twist and the
hmm
up and down motion. Just you can start slow. Ask your partner, you want me to go fast? Like you can just ask your partner completely and do it all. And I'll even say this: I was thinking about while you were talking about it. I think you're so right about the hand job with both partners using their hands at the same time. That I think that's the better 69. Like I'm a
yeah,
little I'm a
totally.
okay. You probably aren't, but I'm a hair out on the 69. Now, and the reason why is because like your mouth, it like when you're both using your mouth, like it's harder to be verbal, and
Totally.
you are thinking more about what you're doing, but your hands do
For
so
sure.
much. You know what I mean? Like you
Totally.
can, like if you're using your hands together, if both of you are using your hands, it can be so intimate because you can be looking at each other, you can be talking, you can, I mean,
Absolutely.
you know what I mean? You can all. There's a million. I can sit and talk forever while I'm like, doing green peas or green beans, snipping off the ends of green. You know what I mean? Like my hands. I know that sounds funny. Maybe that's a bad comparison, but I'm just saying, like, like you can do so much while you're just together and talking and being intimate together. It really is almost to me a better 69 because
that's so fun. I mean, I do love 69, but I'm also, when I teach it, I also teach about like, use your hands in your mouth. Why do we have to say we're just going to use our mouth? It's like you have two hands and one mouth, like we might as well use them all. And so because 69 can also be a little bit like rubbing your head and or rubbing your belly, tapping your head. It can be like a little bit like, oh, there's a lot going on, Yeah, I agree. Use your hands. They are magic.
100%. Sure. They are awesome. All right. We have some great listener questions this week. And so I'm kind of excited to do these. So here.
I love them. I think they're so special. I know I say that every episode, but they just mean so much to me to have people be so vulnerable and asking such incredible questions. So keep them coming. They're amazing.
Yep. All right. And as always, we keep your names anonymous. I come up with some names for you guys and girls out there, but yeah, if you want to send it, you can send it into Toby@marriagesupply.com, or Stormy, where can they reach you at?
Stormy at lovedeeplab.com.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, this is the first one. This comes from Orgasm Times. Orgasm Times. Orgasm Times. I was trying to do orgasm sometimes. Says,
your names are so funny. They're so clever.
Hey there. I've been married for around 6 years now. We waited until we were married to have sex because of Christianity. I know that feeling. I was a virgin. He wasn't. And it was painful in the beginning. And it still is sometimes, possibly because of birth control / my brain, which is a lot to undo. That's an interesting comment too, because it could be physical too, like painful. There's a lot of things that could be,
for sure.
But anyway, but there have been great times of sex, and for sure, but I don't think I ever orgasmed during sex. Some of my girlfriends were talking about vibrators, so I was like, what the hell, I'll buy one and give it a try. You can go to marriagesupply.com and get one. It was their first sex toy purchase, and my husband was supportive of it. After staring at it and having it stare back at me for many months, I decided to give it a try, and wow, I didn't realize that may have been my first orgasm. Wow.
Yeah.
I've used it solo since and climax every time, which is amazing. It is making me more comfortable in the bedroom, but still I need to be able to orgasm. I have let him use it on me during sex, but I ended up just taking it from him since I know where exactly I want it, etc. I was wondering if you all had any tips about how I can start orgasming during sex, even without a vibrator, since that is what my body is familiar with. I just want to have sex be amazing for both of us. I want him to be more involved with my orgasm. Any positions that may help. We use lube 100% of the time, and when we try new positions, they usually hurt for me. We have used a cock ring from Marriage Supply, and it's been helpful, but still doesn't get me to that level. Maybe I will buy the more expensive model. LOL. Thanks, y'all.
Awesome. Beautiful question. So yeah, I mean, I want to normalize that, right? So you said that you weren't sure that you were having orgasms during sex, or that it's hard for you to have an orgasm during sex without vibration, without a vibrator. But that's very, very, very common. 75% of women, 75 to 80% of women, depending on the study, don't orgasm from sex alone. Do not orgasm from penetrative sex alone. And that really is about our anatomy. Most women, 75 to 80% of us, need clitoral stimulation to orgasm. And so penetrative sex may or may not provide varying degrees of clitoral stimulation. So I just first wanted to normalize that you're totally normal. There is nothing broken. Okay. And it really speaks to what a term that's coined, the pleasure gap, which is the amount of time that this is in cis hetero couples that men orgasm during sex alone versus women orgasm during sex alone. And it's a huge gap. It's a big pleasure gap, right? So one of the ways you ask for ways that you can increase the likelihood of having an orgasm during sex. So a couple of ways that I would suggest is increasing your foreplay because it starts to bridge that gap, right? Like, and I would say like triple the length of your foreplay. Throw in a hand job. We just talked about that, right? That might not be stimulation for you, but you could get a little in-place vibrator to kind of get you going, let's say while you're giving your guy a hand job, for example. But really increasing the foreplay is one for sure. And the other is there are certain positions, and I'm glad you use lube because that would be another thing I would say, lots and lots and lots of lube. Okay. Because lube allows us to take away some of the friction so we can do some more clitoral forward positions, right? Yeah. So with less friction, but different positions that have more clitoral stimulation. Also exploring G-spot stimulation. If you're not that, usually G-spot and clitoris or some combination of the two is how a woman will more likely orgasm during sex. So, because you said new positions sometimes hurt, the listener said new positions sometimes hurt, you might want a position in which you are in control of the depth and the angle. So let's say like reverse cowgirl tends to be like a lot of stimulation to the G spot, and you can also self-stimulate your clitoris or have your partner stimulate your clitoris. So that would be maybe a good position to try. Another position is basically missionary, but with the man up higher above up more towards your head. So he's going up and down more than in and out. They call it the coital alignment technique. But it gives you his pubic bone hits your clitoris. And that's a really great way. It's like, I call it like missionary plus, right? Like it's a really lovely twist on missionary, right? So try that position. You can try, obviously, doggy is a lot more G-spot, gives you access to your clitoris. You can use a vibrator, your partner can use his hand, whatever it might be. So playing with positions for sure. And then I think, the other thought you mentioned is there's a lot of couples toys out there, and Marriage Supply is a great place to get them where you can get vibrators that are for both of you. Like I love one that's called We Vibe. It is you use it while you're having sex, and it is an awesome bridge for that pleasure gap. So, try bringing in, if you said that in the question, you take
the We Vibe, the one that hits the clitoris and goes to the G spot.
Yeah, it goes inside. It has but it's pretty like small so that the penis can also be inside. And it's really lovely because the man feels the vibration of the inside one. So do you as the woman, but then also you have clitoral stimulation, and it's really, it was the first couples vibrator I tried personally. I think it's awesome. I have like not found one I love more. But you mentioned cock ring. Like there's a lot of different things you can try. There's actually some that are for him that also give pleasure to your clitoris while you might be like riding him or something. So, bringing in a toy, but really, I think also just having conversations. I know I say this in every answer to every question, but the communication of like, hey, I have found that, direct clitoral vibration or stimulation really helps me to orgasm. Like sharing that with your partner gives him a chance to be like, let's do it. Let's find a way that does that. Right. So I think it's an amazing question.
Yeah. And I think too, like even what you're saying, like you can use a cock ring if you do like the coital alignment. Like it doesn't have to be just that, once again, the ramming or in and out, like you can do something where the vibration of the cock ring is just sitting on the clitoris or the pelvic bone, and it's creating stuff more than just bam, 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 in and out, in and out, in and out. Like really try that. I think we've been told that it's really cool just to slam each other or the jackhammer we were talking about earlier, whether that's either penetrative or a hand job. Like the jackhammer can be good, but also the others can be just as good, if not even better. So I would try that. And then also I would say, do not be afraid to orgasm first. Like let that happen, right?
I love that.
Like orgasm first. You're not like, no guy ever is like, damn it, she just orgasmed. It's never happened. Not one guy on earth in the history of the earth has ever said that. They're only super happy, and women can just keep right on going. They have that ability. It's amazing. It's wonderful. You know what I mean? Like that, like you can feel good and then keep going, and then you might could have a second orgasm or whatever it might be. So including your partner and going, hey, listen, what if I get to here and then I'm still ready to go. And then, man, I already feel great and you're going to feel great. And then it's just going to make
Yeah.
everybody feel great. So I think
Totally. That's a great tip. And I think you're right. I think I know myself in the past and also clients I've worked with have said that they do stop their orgasm because they think it's too soon or whatever. And then it can be like, oh, I let that opportunity go. And there's nothing, no shame, but I think it's a great tip to like let yourself just totally be in pleasure. And if orgasm comes early, like great. That's awesome.
right. 100%. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Here comes our next question. And this comes from Sit You've Been Gone. Sent You've Been Gone. I've been waiting to, since I wrote that, I've been waiting to sing that. Sit You've Been Gone. I've been really waiting to sing that. Okay.
You just rocked it. That was very good.
Thank you, Kelly Clarkson. Okay. My boyfriend told me that my vagina had a bit of a smell the last time we had sex. I've never been told that, and I'm wondering what could be causing it. Not much has changed in my routine, so nothing new would be causing it. So wondering what basically they're asking us what ideas you might have about that, Stormy, and also are there organic or natural things that could help? I'm assuming they're wanting to not try to do pills or what, like didn't they used to be like douche or something like that?
No,
right?
I am so not a fan of douche. No, it's really, really bad. Like, so let me just start with saying that do not douche. It is like, as a sex educator, your vagina has like a magical pH in it. Do not fuck with it. And douche totally fucks with it. Like, and then you're much more likely to get infections, which may cause odors or yeast infections or things like that. So, what I would first say is that like, I love the question because I think, women can be very self-conscious about how our vagina smells, how our vulva smells. And every vagina smells differently, just like every penis smells differently, actually. But that the odor itself is not a symptom of a problem per se, right? So it's usually odor plus symptoms that might mean that you have an infection. Could be yeast infection, could be bacterial vaginosis, could be many, many things. So the odor itself is not necessarily a sign of a problem, okay? But if it's something you're concerned about, I mean, our odor changes. It changes the time of our cycle. When we're menstruating, exercise, like we sweat down our vagina, sweat, our vulva sweat, so we sweat down there. Our diet, I mean, all these things can change how, even within your own realm of smell, how your smell changes, right? So I would say, let me just start with the don't. So I already said don't douche, don't overwash, because same thing, you can mess up your pH and you can also cause irritation. It's very sensitive tissues. The vulva, but also the vaginal tissues are very sensitive. Don't use sprays or perfumes, or again, like think of it as like magical pH it's really balanced naturally, and we don't want to mess up the balance. But if you are concerned about it, things like hygiene, right? Like showering, like before you have sex or before you're gonna like sexy time or whatever, might make you feel better, might also remove any sweat or anything like that. And then one of the big things that can change a woman's odor is like like I think since COVID, we all like literally live in like yoga pants. Many of us do. I know I do. But they're not like Lycra and spandex are not very breathable. So more breathable materials, especially in your underwear, like cotton and things like that are more breathable, or organic materials can help with minimizing any odor. And then, avoiding any perfumes or anything that could dry you out. So as far as like natural products, I would say a gentle, non-irritating, non-fragrant soap. There are some of those specific for the vulva. And they're, external washes that can be lovely, but just any soap that you feel like, again, not like scrubbing away down there, but just normal washing. And then if you start having symptoms, then that's when you would go get something checked out, get it checked out with your doctor, because you can certainly have an infection, but the change in the odor alone is not indicative of a problem if there's no symptoms.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I like just having a penis and balls. It just seems so much easier. Like, just wash. You know what I mean? Like, just go take a shower and you can pretty much handle that. But like
totally.
a shower works. But yeah, there's a lot more going on. So yeah, I think too, it's okay. What I liked about this question was that her boyfriend felt good enough to tell her that,
totally,
and that she didn't feel like that. Like, one of the biggest things I think we talk about on this podcast is just communication. I love
Mm-hmm.
that. You don't have to be offended. Your boyfriend wasn't trying to say anything bad about you. Like, you know what I
No.
mean? Like he's just, he wants to have sex with you. He wants to do this. And it doesn't even necessarily, like the word used, a bit of a smell. That,
Yeah.
that doesn't mean awful or terrible or disgusting. I want the listeners to think that, like to hear that. Like you can have a conversation where, hey, I just noticed this and I just want to tell you because I care about you. And
Totally.
I'm down there and something could be going on. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
hey, let's just check this out because who knows? Because,
Yeah, exactly. No, I completely agree. I think it's a really good sign of the level of communication by both the fact that he communicated and how she interpreted the communication, right? So
yes.
that's a really good thing.
Yeah. So I love that this couple can do that. All right. The last question we have today is from Goodwill Grunting. I love the movie Good Will Hunting. I love
It's
it.
one of my favorite movies for
I mean,
sure.
it is just one of my favorite movies of all
So,
time.
so
I
good.
mean,
How about
it's
them
just,
apples?
I
It's
know.
so good.
I mean, it's just so good. All right. I do not like the sounds my boyfriend makes when we have sex. At first, it was cute and I didn't mind it, but now I find myself being a little turned off by his animalistic noises. How can I tell
Mhm.
him I don't like this without making him feel insecure? And I like that again, like
Mhm.
she's really
Mhm.
wanting to be careful because he's making noises that he's having a good time. That's what I
Yeah,
thought about when
totally.
I read this question. I
Yeah.
was like, wait, he's having a good time, and
Yeah.
he's probably doesn't even realize he's making the noises. Maybe.
Yeah, totally. It's a great question. So I think, a couple of things that come up for me when you share that question is again like the communication piece, right? So like you might say something because it is really like many of us, many hetero couples, um I would say like it is according to research, the majority are really quiet when we have sex. So it's a great thing to let our partner hear our pleasure. It's also totally okay that like it takes you out of yours. The listener is saying his noises, animalistic is what she said,
Yeah.
takes her out of her experience and her pleasure, right? It bothers her for some reason. Don't need to know why. There's nothing wrong with that. So you might say something, she might say something like, I love hearing your pleasure. Like that is so awesome, so special to me. And your pleasure sounds take me out of mine. Like, and this, I would also recommend this conversation not happen during the exchange, right? It
During,
just
right.
happens like maybe in a moment of connection. Maybe you're sharing a glass of wine or a cup of tea or whatever, a
Yeah.
feeling of connection because you don't want that. It's a very vulnerable moment and you don't want to hurt your partner. So, considering the timing and of the conversation, but that, and so having a conversation about it, like, I really want to hear your pleasure. Can we play with like maybe just breath sounds or dirty talk? Like, right. So maybe he can put his, if it says grunting, it sounds like, or some sort of grunting into like trying pillow talk, trying dirty talk, maybe, and then, maybe that works for you guys. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe just having him really share his breath sounds, right, would give him,
Yeah.
because you don't want to stifle his pleasure, but you want the expression that also works for your nervous system. And so it's really that communication piece. And then the last thing I would say is, can you join him? And like, I would ask her to think about what are her sounds, what are her pleasure sounds? Because like I mentioned, most of us are very quiet during sex. And when we bring in sound, it can be any sound. It can be breath. It can be words. It doesn't have to be words. It can be his, in this case, animalistic sounds. But when both people bring in voice, so adding sound, both people's pleasure increases. And so maybe if you're adding your own sounds in, maybe all of a sudden what was a little dystonic for you is now like melodious, right? Now it sounds good. His sounds with your sounds. So just curiosity about that. Get curious with yourself about how are you sounding, and are you offering your sounds to the exchange?
Yeah. 100%. I mean, yes, personal experience. There was a ooh 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 person that I was with a long time ago. They just would always go ooh 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 ooh, and so I thought it was funny. You know what I mean? And I started laughing one time, and that didn't work out. You know what I mean? Like, because that stopped everything. Because then that she felt like I was making fun of her, and I was
Yeah,
not.
right.
And but I wasn't making fun, but I didn't notice it. I'm a very audible person. Like I'm an
Yeah.
extreme audible person. I do
Yeah.
music and all that stuff, and like I can't even help it sometimes. If I hear an interesting sound, I copy it. You know what I mean? Like I'll just say it right out, and I'm not making fun of the person, but it just kind of comes out. So I understand this. Like if I heard my partner going, ooh, 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 or whatever, oh yeah, oh, you know, like, but I would say this too. If you can get somebody there, that is a super vulnerable spot, and they are really like letting all the walls down and sounding animalistic is
right.
Think about it. If you just think about it in a hair different way, they don't get to be that way with anybody else but you. And this is where they just, all the walls come down, and they are just so, like, I can be animalistic, which is okay. You know what I mean? Like it can be okay. And so that would be something else I would say, is that if this person is having that much fun, like when you see, you know, your partner or your spouse or boyfriend and girlfriend or whatever, like really having a good time, and you're like, whoa, that's really awesome. Look at like what they're doing, like whatever it is out of the bedroom. You know what I mean? Whatever their hobby or their work or whatever they might be doing. If you can see somebody really enjoying themselves, and that, I just think that's super powerful. And so don't shush that away, you know, like too quickly. Like take a moment too to go, wait a minute. They can this is the only time they're like this on earth, and they're doing this with me, and you might could see it in a new light as well.
So I love that. Yeah, it's really sacred, right? Like to your point, if you're in a monogamous partnership and you're only having sex with one person, like, you know, that person gets to hear your pleasure noises, you get to hear theirs, and then that's it, right? That's really sacred. That's really special.
Oh, 100%. It's the same thing. Like I was thinking about it, like if you're in a relationship with somebody and you get so close and you can really tell them about, you know, like the things that make you sad or your past traumas or anything like that. Like I've been in a relationships before where the person was breaking down in front of me, and I was like, whoa, they feel confident enough to just totally let it all go. You know, like I can't connect with my dad or something like, you know, like they're making crazy noises they would be embarrassed to make with anybody else. But with you, they're not embarrassed. And so not being embarrassed around you is a huge thing.
Totally.
Because we're embarrassed by everything.
And not only do they feel confident enough, they feel safe enough, right? To share that with you, right? Like that's huge, right? And really, I mean, intimacy lies, a huge part of intimacy is safety, right? A feeling of safety. And women experience it different than men for the most part, but it's still a drive for both men and women to feel connection, to feel safe, to feel trust. These are all aspects of intimacy. And so, you know, sounding, right? Whatever sound, and I love sounding. My son always jokes that I have like I make this little happy noise when I'm eating good chocolate. I'm like, like that's my happy pleasure chocolate sound, you know, probably different than the sound I make in the bedroom, but I sound because it actually makes me enjoy my chocolate even more.
Yes.
So sounding in and of itself is a super cool practice. So the next time you take a sip of something that tastes good or enjoy a bite of something that tastes good, like give yourself a little right? That's why we all go right? So let yourself do that is a great way to like practice beginning, because a lot of people are very quiet in the bedroom, and that's okay. That's not wrong. It's just that, are you holding back? And maybe for judgment, fear of like what that might sound like. It also is vulnerable to let yourself sound.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Outside of the bedroom, it's okay to have this conversation, and it's okay to like let this be not so heavy. Like it can be light. It can be, as long as your partner understands. Like if there's been tons of times in my life where I made a funny noise or did something weird in the bedroom, and then me and my partner died laughing, and that just added to everything. You know what I mean? Because I feel like sometimes we get so caught up in, oh, this is sex and we got to be serious and we're just pleasuring each other and I want to be the best lover ever. And oftentimes if we can just like laugh a little bit or cut up or go, whoa, that was funny, the noise I just made, because it was so real. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't faking. You know, I wasn't faking at all. I think that's really powerful. If you can kind of laugh and have a good, because you're not laughing at each other, you're laughing with each other, and that just can add so much to the moment for sure.
Absolutely.
So. All right, well, that's another episode, Stormy. Man, we're getting good at this. We're getting good at this.
Love it.
All right, we'll see y'all next time. Thank you guys so much. Send in your questions, and we appreciate it. We love you all. Thank you so much.